You're listening to Meeple to Meeple, uniting players from around the world. I'm PJ, and with me as always is Gareth, and today we are talking about Writing Among the Stars, Twilight Inscription, the epic roll and write experience. Gareth, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. I've spent the whole week playing this game, so I am ready to share.
That's funny, so did I.
Isn't it weird how a game, which I think it was announced at Gen Con?
That's correct.
Yeah, well, not announced, but I think that's when I became aware of it. I'm sure there'd been teasers and stuff about it beforehand.
Yeah, in my Gen Con recap episode, I told you how they had sold a few.
That's right.
And that's when it got on my radar.
Yeah.
I think it got on yours as well.
Yeah. And then I saw it was up for like a delivery last Friday. Yeah, we had it a week. It arrived on a Thursday, and I was opened the box and went, "Wow, this is epic." I mean, there's a stack of player sheets, 2-3 centimeters thick.
Absolutely.
And pens, man, I love those pens. But we'll get back to the pens in a minute.
So I saw that you had gotten a copy, and then I got a message from my friend Nick. So here comes the shameless plug. He said, "Hey man, I got copies." So my wife and I went down to our local game store, and we're like, "I'd like my copy of Twilight Inscription, please." And so those of you who are looking for it, at Titan Games Springfield on Instagram.
You're a nightmare.
Yeah. I've got to plug it. I promised I would. I'm not getting paid for it, but maybe one day he'll put us on the payroll.
I thought you were going to say he's going to meet you some dark alley and hand over your copy, because he's a bit of a cardboard junkie pusher.
Well, it's true. And the beauty is, so we paid for the game, and then he handed us a small box with some. I mean, I guess upgraded. You and I talked about there's an extra set of dice.
Yeah, extra dice. I think they're for bricks and mortar stores. I think they were. Yeah.
Yep. They have a glittery effect to them, or like an air bubble kind of. My wife loves them. She thinks they're adorable. So
I prefer the core set. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, they're identical. It's just not identical. They are 6 dice replacing the original 6. They're just slightly more sparkly.
That's it. And I think it's trying to emulate the stars, right?
Beautiful. Now we have to go look at them and see if that's true. But
as much money as you and I spend on games, we'll take anything for free.
Anything for free. And I've already upgraded the pens, but we'll do that right at the end. Yep. I'm obsessed about these pens. So I guess anyone who hasn't heard about Twilight Inscription,
right? This is hot.
This is the roll and write version of its super, super heavy, extra playing, full day length Twilight Imperium, which I'm sure ranks in the top 10 of greatness of all time. Needs 6 players, and pretty much if you go to a convention, you'll see somebody playing this all day. This is the lighter. I say lighter. This is heavy on the scale of roll and writes. Baby brother that plays in about an hour and a half.
So
what do you reckon?
So according to the box, right? It's 1 to 8 players. So it hits all of our solo gamer listeners. You can pick up a copy and play. But it's 1 to 8, so it accommodates more than its big brother Twilight Imperium. It says 90 to 120 minutes. I think that's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah,
I think under 2 hours. Our first game we were learning took a little longer, but I think we can play it in under 2 hours.
I think we played 4-player the very first game we had in about an hour and a half, but that was a teach as well.
Right. So I've only played it at 2 players so far. My wife and I. We played it several times in the past week, and we hit except for the first time, like we just said, usually about an hour and a half.
Okay, because 1-2 player's got an AI, hasn't it? It's got a third player, which I haven't tried, so I'll be intrigued.
Should we talk about that?
Well, let's go for it. Yeah, then we'll talk about the game, and I think we in a minute we'll share how to learn it as well.
Right, because that's another feature.
Yeah,
maybe we should start.
Yeah, let's
start there.
Let's start there. Yeah, so it's got two rule books in the game. There's obviously the standard rule book, and there is a lovely play as you learn, it's called, where it sets up kind of the game runs through like an event deck, and so you start with basically some very simple events, and then it teaches you through the 4 player boards. So if I hadn't said this already, every player has a player board, 4 player boards in front of them, and it teaches you through the navigation board, which is all around traveling around the galaxy. It then teaches through the expansion board, which is you exploring some of the planets that you discovered as you've flown around the galaxy. Then takes you through industry, which is kind of like commodities gathering and trying to score points, including how you vote and how you trade. And then the final board it talks you through is warfare, which is where you are building ships onto your, I guess, warfare grid, and then you battle each other. But it teaches you really well. It doesn't tell you everything about why you've done it, and by the time you've done all 4 boards, it's clicked and you've gone right. And I can teach this pretty well now. But yeah, it does help because you look at it and go, oh my God, there are so many icons. There's so many things I've got to worry. And all the boards cross over, don't they? So there's a connectivity between each one. So it's a bit of a, you first look at it thinking, man, this is another level for a roll and write.
Absolutely. It's so overwhelming when you first look at it. And then when you get to the play as you learn kind of rule book, it's like, hey, you know what? We're just going to take this one sheet at a time.
Yeah, really baby steps, aren't they?
Yeah. And to be honest, you kind of have to. There's a lot, just a lot. But
Yeah.
here, let me ask you a question really quickly. I have 2 questions. Have you played Twilight Imperium before?
No, but
Okay.
we played this.
Neither have I.
No, and it's a game that I've always wanted to play, but I think you need full 6 players and you need a full day. But while playing this, and we were playing it at a friend's gaming day last Saturday, when I first played it with a group of 4 of us. But the group in the room all said, I said, look, who fancies doing this? And we all agreed we were going to invest in a copy between us and make a day of it. Hit the table once a year. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome that y'all are going to do that. And for the listeners, remember, Gareth and I have not played Twilight Imperium, and we both got a lot of enjoyment out of this.
Yeah,
so
you definitely don't.
I don't think it's not a requirement, but from what I hear from fans of Twilight Imperium, the big complaint, of course, is that it doesn't hit the table very often because you need 6 players. It's 8 to 10 hours or whatever. But
yeah, I think I've read people saying that it really does bring the essence of all of the bits of the core game into the roll and write.
That is what I hear.
I think you got 24 factions to choose from, which are all unique. And on the back of each faction card, some really nice flavor text that kind of gets you in the mind of how this faction works. And yeah, through the players you learn, you're given the ones to choose. But if you play the full game, you're given 3 at the start. You choose one, and they might give you a starting bonus, or they might just give you a really powerful extra battleship that you can do. And on some of the player boards are faction specific assets, and assets are the things that you collect by completing various rows, lines, connections, whatever happens to. It is a combo central if you get the systems all working together.
One of my favorite things is the faction that you choose really dictates the way in which your style of play for that game.
Yeah.
That's not always true in other games that are asymmetric. It's still the same moves, but I feel like my faction really is like, okay, because it's really tied into the
I think you have to absolutely focus on, if a faction's got a power, you want to utilize it. And that reminds me, I didn't say, so the player boards are double-sided. So the A and B. B is symmetric, everyone can be the same. Or if you flip over to the A side, there's 8 different A's, 8 different B's, 8 different C's and D's. So in theory, all 8 players can be asymmetric and their factions different. So the amount of combinations of when you're playing this game really does give lots of longevity in terms of its usage.
Absolutely, because you have the asymmetry of the individual factions, and then you have the asymmetry of the actual sheets that you're going to write on after you roll the dice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I haven't tried that. We've been playing the B sides all this week. I expect we play this tonight or tomorrow. We'll try the A sides. And I know I mentioned the pens, but the pens are dry
oh,
erase chalk markers, which
yes,
I
they are
don't
magical.
I don't think I've played a game with chalk when I first used them. So if you've seen the box, the artwork's quite dark, so it's obviously very spacey themed, very bright and bold. But the dry wipe or dry erase chalk markers are fluorescent orange. And the first time I drew, I was like, "Ooh, look at these markers!" I think I put a post on Instagram that said these are the greatest pens in the world. I've seen other people say they didn't like them, but I think the only thing I have is what the cleanup afterwards. You need to, if like 4 players is 16 sheets, and each board I'm using a piece of kitchen towel to wipe them down.
Oh yeah,
But
us too.
that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of cleanup, I guess, because they are chalk, not like an ink from a dry white marker. Um,
Right, right.
but so much, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to find any more of these pens. So I did a quick Google, and there was a thread on Board Game Geek talking about where you might get the pens from, and I've managed to acquire 8 more. But these are like the super fine liners chalk pens, which I think I'm going to replace all my dry wipes with. Because I personally I like a really fine nib when doing this sort of thing. I find sometimes the dry wipes are quite fat and chunky.
No, I
Um,
agree. Absolutely. And when you mentioned that earlier, I was like, oh my God, yes, that's
yeah.
brilliant. Got
So
to do it.
so yeah, I've found a brand called Bistro Chalk Marker, super fine, available from all your Amazons. I got mine from eBay in the UK. But yeah, they are fine. My wife prefers the ones in the box, but we're all different.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
all good.
they're just great pens, and just I think just make the board feel a bit more tactical. That orange pen feels like I'm drawing my star charts, and just feels I'm in the future.
So we're gonna you've got 6 dice. You roll the dice, and that's like your resources.
Yeah,
Or
resources. Yeah,
resources. Um, right. So you have resources, you have commodities, and you have assets. So just trying to keep it all straight. There's 3 of them that are black or a dark gray that everyone's going to get access to. But then there's a pink, blue, and a green die that you don't have access to. But if you build projects by attributing your resources, you can unlock those dice for certain mats, one of your 4 mats, right? So that it gives you more resources during the roll.
yeah, huge. You
Yeah.
definitely want to get those upgrades and get those extra dice, because
Yep.
the extra dice also have 2 icons on some of their faces, so it's even a double bonus.
So okay, so let me talk about the AI for a minute because
Yeah,
that's a
go for it.
great that's a great place to start. So, in the game there is a sheet that represents Mechatol Rex, right? That's the what is that? That's the
It's a
capital of
lost
the
planet or something, isn't
Lost
it?
Planet or
Yeah, I
something.
think so.
And so who in a multiplayer, more than 2 player game, um, whoever gets there first gets what 7 points and 4 votes for the council, and then the second person is 5 points and 4 votes, and and then so as you get if you're last, you get fewer points, and that's true in a solo or 2 player game, except that you have this AI. It's kind of like it's a manageable AI. So when you roll the dice, obviously the players share the black dice, but the results of the pink, the blue, and the green dice, depending upon what's facing, whether it's 1 icon or 2, you'll check it off. So on the other side of the Mechatol Rex sheet, there's like 3 factions that will arrive, and it gives you the points accordingly. And then the bottom half is the AI. So if the pink die rolls 1 symbol, then you mark that off on its row. Um, and if it's blue, same thing. And then toward the bottom, if there's 2 icons, whenever a council vote is called, however many rolls of the pink die, because you've been marking them off each turn, that's going to dictate how many votes the AI is going to cast during that vote, right? And then the blue is the same for its expansion. And then the double-sided, there's also paths for the double icons if you roll those, and that will indicate like when they reach, certain milestones. So for example, in the green, it's in Rex. So when you've rolled 6 green icons and you mark them off each roll, when you do that stuff, it's the picture of Mechatol Rex. You circle it, and then you say the AI has arrived at Mechatol Rex, whether that's the first player, second. But it doesn't have, like, you don't have to manage the 4 sheets that we just talked about. You basically checking off what the die results are on the colored dice for the AI, and then it just kind of, it's really simple. I think it's going to be great for solo players, because you'll have your formats in front of you. You'll roll the dice, you'll check off the AI's roll, and then you can do your bit.
Easy.
Yeah, it's really simple.
Low admin is low admin is the key for those things.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I don't care for AI. We don't like ghost third players, and there is no ghost third player. The AI is just this chart. Mark off what the die roll was, and that's it. And that makes it really simple. So I think we've only played it at 2-player. We haven't played it at multi yet.
Let me talk through how the multiplayer works. Every round you draw a card from the event deck, and you always activate that card first. So the card could be called a strategy card, and that gives you some pre-defined dice faces, which everyone uses. And then wherever you use, whichever the 4 boards or player boards you use those dice on, when you roll the dice that PJ just talked about, those are then allocated to the same active sheet. Other events are like production, where you generate trade goods. There's the council, where you vote for through 3 different times, through 3 different voting cards that can change the game. They can cross out assets. They can be good and bad. And the 4th is war. And the war is basically always against your neighbours. So you look at across your war board, where have you built ships, and it's divided in half. And every war, you basically make the playing board smaller, add up the number of pips, and that might be 6. Maybe I've drawn 6 ships, I've got 6 dots. Compare that to PJ's, he's got 5, I win, I get the benefit, and PJ will get a negative, which might be negative points, or it might be something else. And that works really well, because one of the rules is you're not allowed to look at what the other players are doing if you can do something. So and they recommend putting your pen down when you've finished, so that everyone knows you finished your turn.
Yep.
So you're not supposed to sneak to your right, see whether somebody's drawing their ships. You're kind of supposed to be, in that moment, be very solitaire on your own, do your own stuff. When you're finished, then you may look around and see what everyone else is doing. And I guess you're only really bothered about the player to your left and your player to the right, which is, well, I guess it works quite well at 8-player. I guess downtime might be longer. I think if you had high AP, you might drag out some of the thinking, because there are a lot of combos.
There's a lot of combos. But
yeah, you play through, I think it's 24, I don't know how many cards are in an event deck, but you play through them, and there's basically an ending that can happen either sooner or later, that you have the final war. And yeah, it plays really smoothly. See, once you've had that one game, you've got through the learning manual. Actually, like a lot of these more complex roll and writes, if you get the icon, the symbology, iconography, you generally just crack on with it. But it does look daunting for that first player. But I'd happily teach it now. I think I've learned a good way of getting people to understand the rules.
What I think is, so the tag at the bottom of the cover of the box, and we said it at the intro of the episode, it's the epic roll and write experience. And I feel like, compared to other roll and writes, which we'll talk about in our next episode, it is an experience. I don't feel like I'm just playing a game,
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I think on Board Game Geek, I think I should have said it's 3.2. It says 14 plus, I think, on the box. It's not a second chance. It's not one of those simpler I guess, friendly roll and writes. This one is heavy, if you know what I mean.
It is. It is. It very much
It is epic. I think it's not. When you look at it, you'll go, man, that looks complicated. But as I said a minute ago, once you've had a play, actually, it's all right. But it's every turn you're trying to just be as efficient as possible, and you definitely can't do everything. You've got to maybe explore and maybe go and do some stuff on the industry cards. Dabble a bit over here, but you're never going to do all four balls justice. And there's also objective cards. They are huge opportunities for points if you get those focused on.
And then the relics.
Of course, yes, the relics.
Oh my God!
There's two relics on the. You can find relics on the Galaxy. Not the expansion.
On the navigation
sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two of them, and so we played it the first 2 or 3 times we played it. And I'm like, what is this deck? And my wife's like, well, that's the relic deck. And I'm like, oh, and then she points out the icon, and I'm like, I am going for those. I'm curious. I didn't even know what they did. Oh my goodness, they are so good. I clearly had a tactical advantage in the last game.
Yes, I think they give you points between 3 and 6 points. I think off my head.
They give you points. They also give you other benefits,
special powers, don't they?
Yeah, they're really amazing. And they're thematic. It fits the theme of space exploration, and you find this ancient, relic or site or whatever, and it's just really good. I feel like the theme comes through. You're playing a roll and write as opposed to flip and writes, although we kind of treat those as the same. It's really elegant, and I don't think they could have condensed it down any further.
Yeah, I guess it's a flip and then it's a roll. It's a flip and write, roll and write, because you do all 4 in a turn.
Because you do have the event deck. Yeah, I guess so.
It does feel as if there's more to be added, because I feel as if the objectives deck and the council deck is a bit light. I'd like more options. So a bit like what's the other games recently? The Star Wars smuggling game. My brain has gone dead. Can't remember what it's called now. But
Outer Rim?
Yeah, Outer Rim. Yeah, the core game came with them just enough. You're going, man, there needs to be a bit more. And this feels as if there's a nice expansion pack. Whether there's another playing board, or whether there's just more event cards and more objective cards, more council voting cards, that feels like it absolutely has been left open for expansions. Then why wouldn't
it? Absolutely.
I suppose the other thing is on each board there are like technical unlocks that give you a sort of a special power, or you can use those unlocks to unlock more dice. So you've really got to think about where you allocate some of the more powerful assets that you find, because those dice are good, but also some of the technology upgrades are also very powerful. So you're like, oh, what do I do? But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I'm also a huge fan of roll and writes, and this, and people hear this probably in the next episode when we talk about the broader roll and writes, is right at the top of my roll and write live. And I'm a heavier gamer, so I guess that is possibly why. It just scratches the itch of something far meatier than the average roll and write, it's so good. And the pens. I'm a simple man when the pens stand out, aren't they?
And then you upgraded the pens.
And then I upgraded the pens because there's no need. I shall put a picture of the new pens on a story on my Instagram in the next 24 hours. But once this goes live next week.
Yes, do that.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably. I guess anyone's got any questions, drop them into the chat.
Absolutely.
We can't do the game justice in going into detail, but if you really do fancy it, I know I've spoken to 2 people on Instagram who've been out and bought it straight away, following even some of my posts last week. So there's definitely some hotness around this one at the moment.
Absolutely, totally worth it. Twilight Inscription,
the epic roll and write experience.
All right, bye guys.
Cheers. Bye bye.